Hi, I'm Bill McNaught. I'm here with Doug Richardson, who's a distant bald relative, and he's written a book called Chasing the Balls, which takes in the early ball history back in Massachusetts and Vermont before they came up to Canada, to Quebec, and finally to Ontario. And he's a distant relative, and I met him 2 years ago, the first time that our families have been together since 1783. Doug and I have come back for the memorial service at the Free Methodist Church. The memorial service for the Vennachar Cemetery is held every year, and many of us try to get back here even though we're many miles away, and that's because it's not just important to know where you came from, but from whom you came. I'm the great-grandson of Nancy Hughes Ball, born in 1855. She was born Nancy Gregg. She was born over in the area of Kincardine. She and her parents and most of her siblings made the trek back here in 1867 and started pioneering and homesteading in this area. Many of them married into the other families that were here, like the Beebes, like the Grants, like the Stalkers. And therefore the Greggs are related to just about everybody. Now Nancy's first husband died in 1880. His name was David Hughes. Left her with 3 children, 3 very young children, and she tried running the farm with the help of her father-in-law, David Hughes Sr., and after about 4 or 5 years she decided to marry Fred Ball, and we're that second family from Fred Ball and Nancy Hughes. Now, John Gregg and Christina Boyle Gregg, they were buried back in this area down the hill, as I understand it, and they had wooden crosses. And they planted some wild roses down there, and it got it to be just like a briar patch. So we're not sure exactly where they are buried. Now we know where everybody else is buried, but not the original pioneers here. And so in 1991, my father, Herbert McNaught, and my uncle, Reverend R.J. McNaught, and the whole Gregg Ball family got together to put this monument up to recognize the pioneers that came out here and cleared this land and settled it. And we put up the monument to them, and you can see the name John Gregg, who was born in Ireland, and then his wife, who was also born in Ireland. And Gregg family originally came out to help build with the Rideau Canal before moving to Kincardine. So, as I say, most everybody in this cemetery is related somehow to the Greggs or the Balls or the Hughes. And we're now going to walk back here and take a look at a few of the interesting stones that we have here. One of the interesting stones is this one of Philip Peter Quackenbush, who married Joanna Beebe. Beebe is one of the pioneer families in here. There was a father and 4 sons who came back to Vennachar to pioneer, and they each had a farm. And the reason they came back was so each of the sons could have a farm in the same area. One of those was Uncle Charlie Beebe, and he married into the Gregg family. He married my great-grandmother's older sister. Her name was Mariah Beebe. And his cousin was Joanna Beebe. And the interesting part here is that from that marriage is this gentleman down here, who is George Draper Quackenbush. And he is one of the 3 soldiers from the Vennachar area who died at the Battle of Vimy Ridge. And he died on April the 9th, 1917. And in that sense, he was a cousin of the 2 gentlemen that we're going to visit in just a moment. So there are 3 families here that lost their sons at the Battle of Vimy Ridge. There were only 3,500 killed there, 3 of them from this area. Robert Gregg and Alberta Gregg, Aunt Bertie. This was the younger brother of my great-grandmother, And he had a farm just south of the Ball farm. And his son, his name was Charles Adam Gregg, also served at Vimy Ridge. He is the second of the soldiers from this area that was killed at Vimy, and he was killed on April 17th, 1917. And they were never able to find Charlie's body, and therefore he has been put on the memorial over at Vimy Ridge in France, and only the names of those whose bodies they could not find are on there, but there's 11,000 from that First World War. We're now at the stone of Fred Ball, and my great-grandmother, who was Nancy Jane Gregg Ball. And the reason we're here is that Fred Ball and his brother John, who's buried over here, they were the Balls who came up to Vennachar and settled after 1881. And Fred was the second husband of Nancy and had 5 children, one of them being my grandmother, Martha Jane Ball. And that's my connection here. She was born just down the road here at Ball Lake on the Ball farm. And the reason that this is so touching is that my grandmother's older brother, that would be Nancy's third son, was John Leslie Ball. He was also serving during World War I and fought at the Battle of Vimy Ridge. And he too was killed on April 12th, 1917, and they've engraved his name along the bottom here. And that's because he's buried in a cemetery in northern France called Vennachar Cemetery. We visited there, and it's a very touching, moving scene. But this was the tragedy that hit this area, and that 3 young men and oldest sons were killed at Vimy Ridge. And it was the younger sons that had to take over and pick up the pieces. In fact, the whole family had to pick up the pieces, and that was not easy.